Hello everyone, Dave Landry here from DaveLandry.com, and this is your Daily 5. I am still super excited about stocks, and I'll show you why in just a few minutes. We're going to take a look at the TFM 10% system. I want to follow up on a setup I talked about recently, and then I want to show you a setup that recently triggered that I think is still viable. I'm also bullish on uranium, and I'll show you why too. So let's dive right in. In yesterday's final bar, I was talking with Dave Keller about the TFM 10% system and how one of my clients, who's also a trader I respect, told me, I respect all my clients, told me that he said the TFM 10% system is as good as anything. Dave Keller and I were talking about ways to stay on the right side of the market, and my answer to that was the TFM 10% system, as my client said, is as good as anything. Now, one thing I wanted to show you with this real quick is as long as the market's within 10% of its 50-week closing high, as a general statement, it's doing okay. As one of my clients pointed out, when you drop 5% or more away from that 50-week closing high, that's when you need to be a little bit concerned, and he tends to get out of the way when that happens. Now, I did the back testing on that, and you're going to have a lot more whipsaw. I find that 10% is still a good round number, but 5% is a good caution number, so to speak. So let's take a look at the system rules. I've talked about this quite a bit, so I'm just going to breeze through this fairly quickly. Like I said last time, we had a sell signal, and then the market turned right back around and went straight back up. That's fine with me. As somebody pointed out on X, once you have a sell signal, and this is my thinking too, when bad things happen, more bad things tend to happen, and that's sort of the premise of this system. And as somebody pointed out on Twitter, once you have a sell signal, there's a 60% chance that the market will drop another 10%. And now, from my testing, since I read the tweet, I found that's fairly correct going back about 100 years or so. That doesn't mean that you won't still have whipsaws. If you think about it, the flip side of that, there's a 40% chance that it won't. But anyway, whipsaws are frustrating. Bear markets are devastating. You could survive frustration. That's a Greg Morris quote that I quote quite often. To get back in the market, you need 2 bars of upside Landry Light that's lows greater than the moving average, and then you have to close within 10% of the 50-week closing high. So there's your buy signal there. So far, so good in the P's. Now, as I mentioned last time, in the NASDAQ, just for S&Gs, I thought it'd be fun to take the last signal and put on 100 shares. And I didn't realize that it would work out so well, obviously. And so far, it really has. So you have the 2 bars of Landry Light, and this is where I got in, 319.49, and I just did a mark-to-market at 432.80. So that's 113 points times only 100 shares, but at 100 shares, that comes to $11,331. Much better than the poke in the eye. Now, I don't tend to follow systems mechanically. Years ago, I did a lot of mechanical testing, and I tried going down that road, and it just didn't work well for me, and that sort of helped me to become a discretionary trader. But these trend following concepts still hold true today. And again, in this case, I thought it'd be kind of fun just to follow along and see what would happen. And so far, so good, knock on wood. Now, here's the tough part. You can see the sell's way down there at 363. I really don't want to give up that much open profits, but that's what the system calls for. And I'm going to try to be the keyword in that sentence, to continue to follow along with what the system says. Now, keep in mind, in my other trading with the core methodology, I'm taking partial profits and then trailing stops, and that's part of the money management, as opposed to this system, which is all in or all out. Now, let's shift gears and talk about Landry bow ties in crypto. Proper order is a great little indicator, or as I like to call them, illustrator, to help keep you on the right side of the market. And the proper order down here is green when the 10 is greater than the 20 and 20 is greater than 30. The 10 is simple, and the 20 and 30 are exponential. The moving averages are plotted up here. And this gives you a nice visual representation of the strength of the trend, and also when the trend may be turning, and that's where the bow ties really come into play. Red would be the 10 simple is less than the 20 exponential, the 20 exponential is less than the 30 exponential. And yellow means that there's somewhere in between. You have neither uptrend proper order or downtrend proper order. And when that's happening, that tells you that the market is either making a transition or has become choppy. So we could see nice uptrend in Bitcoin, and that corresponds with the uptrend proper order that we had for a long time. In fact, we had 109 or 10 days of uptrend proper order, as you can see. And that's good, obviously. Now, recently, the market began to roll over, and we flipped over to downtrend proper order. And I talked about this in the last Your Daily 5. Since then, though, we've turned right back up. Now, here's what's kind of interesting. If you look at where we made the turn from uptrend proper order to downtrend proper order, that would be the pattern I call the bow tie. That's step one in the bow tie. It sort of looks like a bow tie where everything comes together, begins to spread out again. The second part of the setup is a higher high and a higher low, or in other words, a pullback. And you see the market begin to pull back. The entry would be here, but the market went straight back up and did not trigger an entry. As I was telling David Keller yesterday, I'm often amazed at how many times just waiting for an entry will keep you out of trouble. Now, let's take a look at the Landry Light in Bitcoin. Landry Light, again, is just simply lows greater than the moving average. And my favorite moving average to use in stocks and crypto, at least on the daily charts, is a 30 exponential moving average. And you can see we had tons and tons of Landry Light during this nice uptrend. And then it began to alternate back and forth between green and red. When that occurs with the Landry Light, that suggests that the market has become choppy. Now, no matter what indicator you're using, always, of course, look at the chart. And the reason I call the indicator illustrators, as I said earlier, is because they don't indicate anything. Nobody's indicator indicates anything. It just helps to illustrate what's already in the chart. And when you see the green and red flipping back and forth, look at your chart, of course, and you can see the net price change is mostly nil for a long time. Now, I would not buy nor sell Bitcoin as long as it's stuck in this range as a trend follower. Let everybody else fight it out. And Livermore had an eloquent quote on that, basically saying that when those people are fighting it out day after day, especially when the market's chopping sideways like this, they're laying the groundwork for your next venture. Now, I used to say the bigger the base, the further the launch into space, and I guess I still do. And then it was pointed out to me that that's not an original thought. That's Ralph Akampora. I met Ralph a while back. He's a nice guy. He's a lot of fun. And I thanked him for that saying, by the way. But anyway, it's to give him full credit where credit is due. But Ralph's right. The longer that everybody sort of agrees on price, the bigger the move, upside or downside, tends to occur afterwards. So I'm pretty encouraged about Bitcoin, especially when you look at it longer term. Now, again, I would not buy or sell it right now while it's stuck in this base, but longer term, it's looking pretty darn good. Let's take a look at the weekly chart with that concept of Landry Light in mind. Notice that we had a longer term downtrend followed by mostly green and an uptrend. Again, red is bad and green is good. Lows greater than the moving average for uptrends, highs less than the moving average for downtrends. So we had a really nice downtrend for a long time on a weekly chart, and then now we have a really nice uptrend. So longer term, at least for now, it looks like the trend remains up in Bitcoin. Shorter term, though, last 6 to 8 weeks, a little bit longer maybe, it's been mostly sideways. So you want to just sit on your hands and wait. Now remember, it changes really quickly when it comes to crypto. Go in and watch the last Dave Landry's The Weekend Charts for a lot more on that. But keep in mind, these bull and bear market cycles are fairly quick, so you really have to be on your toes. Now, in the last Your Daily 5, I talked about a Landry Light setup. So let's follow up on that, and then I want to show you one that recently triggered. So the stock was RYTM. There are the parameters right there. If you go to davelandry.com/archives, you can take a look at these signals on a delayed basis, so you can see what happens, good, bad, and indifferent. And if you want to see them live, obviously, there's a paid service, davelandry.com/trading service. That will also give you access to my Facebook group, and we talk about a lot of stocks and crypto there. It's a great group, if I say so myself. Great bunch of traders. But anyway, here we have a Landry Light pullback. Notice that you had a lot of Landry Light, a lot of upside Landry Light, hence the green below, about 40-something days, and then the stock pulls back to the moving average. Entry was here, stop was down here, and the IPT was up here. So far it's doing okay. It's not setting the world on fire, but it does look like it's trying to resume its longer term trend. Now, lately I've been bullish on uranium, and that's because it's been going up, and that's what a trend follower does. So again, uranium's been in a great trend as of late. We had a Landry Light pullback here. The parameters, entry of 23.50, stop at 20, IPT of 27 for a risk of 3.5. So notice that it's been in a really nice longer term trend as evidenced by the Landry Light. And again, that's just the lows greater than the moving average, and that's been happening for a long, long time. And you can see the stock, or in this case ETF, pulls back to almost the moving average. I don't trade everything on a mechanical basis, so this, for all intents and purposes, would be a Landry Light pullback. Now, I trade other pullbacks too, so I would just call this a generic pullback, or in this case, it has a bit of what I call a double top knockout look to it, and that's where you have a minor double top, and then the market sells off fairly hard, a bit of a knockout type of move, and then obviously you enter if that trend begins to resume. So almost a Landry Light pullback. You squint your eyes, it sure does look like one. Entries here, stop is down here again, and the initial profit target is up here. So we'll see how this shakes out. Keep an eye on uranium stocks since the physical uranium is doing so well in here. Well, that's your daily 5. If you need to reach me, davelerner.com/contact. If you have questions, you can also follow me on Twitter at tfollowingmoron and on YouTube at Dave Landry. Everyone have a great day. Thanks for watching, and may the trend be with you.